What's something strange your body does that you know isn't quite right but also isn't quite serious enough to get checked out by a doctor? Well, every once in a while my eyes will go blurry and I can't see for a few seconds. I've learned to wait it out, but it seriously freaked me out when I was younger, but from what I know it's basically harmless. By the way, I have 20/20 vision, so it's not my eyesight getting worse over the years. Shiro thinks, mine's similar to a condition, but instead of going blurry for a few seconds if I've been lying down for too long, then I stand up, then I get this dizzy feeling and I kinda have a blackish static around my eyes which will last for about 2 to 4 seconds, then I just feel normal. Wait, no, just found out it's called orthostatic hypotension and I'm just really dehydrated. This is what has been happening. Just wanted to edit this to show everyone I finally figured it out. Thanks for the advice from everyone though, and have a nice day. When I cough, a spot in the middle of my back itches like mad. Also, once every few months I'll turn my head a certain way and it feels like something snaps in my head and a sensation of warmth spreads out in my skull. Probably not a tumor. Oh, I get the warmth thing. At least I'm not the only one. Edit, this is by far my most upvoted comment. Crazy. Anyhoodle, thanks everyone for the likely diagnosis of a pinched nerve. This used to happen to me a lot, in particular when I was heavier. Since I've slimmed down and go to the gym regularly, it doesn't happen often. It is pretty freaky when it does though. I always have an immediate fear that I'm having some weird seizure or that my head is going to explode. I'm not sure if the weight loss, etc., helped or if it's just easing off on its own. Either way, I'm thankful that it isn't having such a negative effect on me. I will sometimes catch myself mouthing/whispering the last sentence or phrase I spoke. Drives me insane. I'd like to self-diagnose this as palilalia. Seems to be exactly what I have. Drives me insane. Edit, exactly what I have. I have one piece of hair on my arm that is white and grows super fast and can get way longer than I've ever seen an arm hair be before. Edit, this is my most upvoted comment. Thanks. Sometimes, the inability to tell the difference between being nauseated and hungry. That's not abnormal. The nausea is likely the result of a dip in your blood sugar. At totally random times it feels like my heart keeps skipping a beat, and I feel short of breath. It goes on for a few hours usually and then stops. I get rubber band headaches sometimes when I focus on doing a certain task. Sometimes the muscles in my hand will tense up and I have to use my other hand to unfold it. I have the first issue too. It is so uncomfortable that I have been to the ER 3 times for it and seen 2 cardiologists. Lots and lots and lots of tests later we found out that my body is super sensitive to adrenaline. I get visual snow. That shit is annoying, but I don't know if there is a way to fix it. I just googled what this is and didn't realize that it isn't a normal thing that everyone has. Sometimes I feel a very acute short pain in my chest, for like 1/10 of a second. It feels like it's in between the ribs, like they pinched the meat. Happens rarely but been happening for years. Does it get worse when you breathe? That's what happens to me. My body doesn't let me know when I need to pee until it hurts. Like I could go a whole day without peeing and then wake up the next morning with intense stomach cramps that go away after a solid 5-minute pee. I can't tell you how many times I've been like, have I peed today? Well, you never know, and I sit down to discover that my bladder was full. Edit, it's nice to know I'm not the only one. After reading comments I'm worried it might be some pinched nerves in my spine or something, because I'm realizing I only began having trouble telling I need to pee after I fell and bruised my tailbone. I haven't had kids yet, so it can't be because of a C-section. But I did get frequent UTIs in middle school, around the same time I got my tailbone. Not sure if it was before or after, that my mom never took me to get treated for. It lasted about 6 months and I would get so itchy that I'd scratch myself bloody. So it might be lasting damage from that. I also have ovarian cysts, so the person who suggested I get my uterus checked out, it never occurred that they might be connected. My parents grew up as migrants, so they never went to the hospital unless they were dying, and that mindset has transferred over to us, so they almost never take us to the doctors. I'm heading off to college in a few weeks though, so I might stop by a free health clinic or something since I'll finally be able to. You might be super constipated. Sounds weird, but I went to a urologist for the same thing. They's read me and that was the answer. When I sit in a position for too long and then arch my back, my breastbone cracks into place. Not sure if it is the breastbone, but definitely in my chest. Ah yes, cracking your sternum, best feeling ever. I get this sharp pain in my ass that lasts a few seconds and it hurts so much. It makes me stand still and not want to move because it'll just become even worse. Lamau. Doesn't happen too often though. Someone said in another comment this could be proctalgia fugax. I get red marks on my body after I work out and sweat a lot, but they quickly disappear as soon as I cool down again. 100% normal until I work out again. It also feels itchy when the red marks are there, but the itch disappears with everything else eventually. Exercise-induced urticaria. I'm really happy that so many people have found this bit of info useful. Usually it can be treated with antihistamines. I, personally, have it to the extent that I need a shot called Xolair. It's expensive, but if you work with an allergist, you can get it approved through insurance. There's also a waiver program. Good luck and stay give-free. I mean, I got this checked out, but apparently I have a good tumor. How good are we talking? Not me, but my uncle. He's almost 70 now. Over the past few years he has gotten more and more grumpy. Yeah, nothing to worry about, his uncle was like that too. Something old people get. He never wanted to see a doctor, even if his cold didn't seem to go away after 2 months a few years ago. That was bronchitis, progressed to pneumonia. He still has a nasty cough. About a month ago my grandmother was celebrating her 93rd birthday with her children. My uncle just sat there, staring in the distance, and when trying to talk he just mumbled. My aunt finally took charge and took him to the hospital. Brain scan was done. Turns out he had a lot of tiny brain bleeds, probably over the course of several years. Don't ignore personality changes, no matter how slowly they progress. I can't burp. I just get this weird gurgly sound as air bubbles come up through my throat if gas comes up that way. I can rip some mean ass though. r/no burp. I feel the need to close my eyes very tight about once every 5 minutes. Hopefully it doesn't make me look like a complete psycho. This sounds like a motor tic. Motor Tourette's. I have the same thing, but I rapidly blink and clench my eyes shut like constantly, as well as raising and lowering my eyebrows. So yeah, great fun. Sometimes I get this weird feeling like everything is going in slow-mo. In contrast, I feel like everything I do is at normal speed. My brain just wants me to do stuff and I feel this burst of energy that makes me feel great. However, there is always a moment where I feel like I should keep moving because if I stop something bad will happen to me. Usually lasts a few minutes tops. When I manage to calm down, everything goes back to normal. It's been happening since I'm a kid, 24 now, and still happens every year. That's your fight or flight response kicking in without a trigger. I have generalized anxiety and a panic disorder. The slow-mo is from the panic disorder when my fight or flight goes off without a trigger. It's happened to me doing laundry, walking into a room, all kinds of mundane stuff that does not justify the response. The first time it happened, I was 10 and it was accompanied by some auditory hallucinations, an overwhelming buzzing noise. I didn't know it was anything not normal and always just thought it was something cool my brain could do. Wasn't until I was diagnosed with anxiety that we figured out what that was too. Every once in a while holding a stack of books or a box or similar shaped stuff where the tips of my fingers bent but the rest was straight, my fingers would lock in place, so I'd have to move my arms and hands in a specific way to unlock them and move my fingers properly. Have you noticed a lump on your wrist? Mine used to do this and it turns out I had a ganglion cyst. My knees, legs, and butt always vibrate. I don't know why. I might have a phone inside me. Edit. A lot of people are suggesting magnesium and I trust it. A booty call perhaps? About 60% of the time when I take a leak, my pee decides to shoot off at a near right angle. I'm a guy. No correlation with recent sex, etc. No way of knowing which direction. I live in fear of the day it finally goes vertical and I waterboard myself. I've always had this, and resigned myself to a life of being the guy that sits down to pee to avoid spraying the floor of the toilet. Random twitchy muscles. Often enough to notice that it happens, yet infrequent enough not to be of any concern. Muscle spasms. Totally normal. You probably aren't eating enough potassium, drinking enough water, or getting enough sleep. This thread made me feel like all bodies are weird and maybe I don't have a hidden tumor after all, lol, thank you. Or maybe we all have hidden tumors. I don't need to pee, then I really need to pee, like if I don't get to it toilet ASAP I'm gonna pee myself, Terry's no in between. Sometimes when I sneeze I get severe pain, stiffness, and pressure in my arms. Internet says it's a pinched nerve. It goes away after a few seconds. Never told the doctor about it, even though it's been happening since I was a kid. Sometimes I can't swallow food or water. It's like my throat just randomly closes and it isn't a food allergy either. I'm able to swallow if I quickly twist my neck to the side, it temporarily opens my throat. Doesn't happen often enough to warrant a doctor visit. Please see a doctor about this. Difficulty swallowing is a sign of some really unpleasant things coming down the pipe. My stomach makes so much noise. Hungry? Full? Doesn't matter. Just weird audible squeaky / whistly / gurgle noises all of the time. Like there have been times when my husband is across the room and he can hear my weird tummy talking. I also am very irregular and get horrible stomach cramps, dizziness, heart palpitations, and get overheated almost every time I go to the bathroom. This however is a bigger problem and I have a doctor's appointment next week. I had a loud stomach but I later learned it was lactose intolerance. It's all quiet in there now that I don't eat dairy so much anymore. Every single time I swallow, my ears pop. Wait, this isn't normal. The bags under my eyes get purple sometimes. I got a bit of a farmer's tan but the parts of my skin that are exposed to the sun are like an olive color. Some days I look as pale as a dead man but feel perfectly fine. My right testicle randomly hurts. I started balding at 16. Sometimes it feels like my heart skips a beat but that actually went away. I hear people arguing when I try to fall asleep. Cup exploding head syndrome. I hear odd noises when I fall asleep sometimes too. People yelling, often my name, or loud clapping or banging sounds. Always just for a second. This is one that previously happened and is solved as far as I'm concerned. For a couple years, every time I ran my dishwasher, my eyes got really dry. That makes no sense, right? It was a minor annoyance, but too ridiculous to say out loud, even to a doctor. Years later, I got diagnosed with Sjögren's syndrome. My immune system mistakenly attacks my tear ducts and my eyes get really dry. Scientists think it's kicked in by an exposure to a toxin, like mold, that sends your immune system haywire. My old apartment was full of black mold in the walls. Every time I ran my dishwasher it got in there and wet the mold and made it worse. I'm so glad to figure out I wasn't just imagining things because I knew I wasn't. Edit to answer questions, this really blew up overnight. Yes, I'm female. How I got diagnosed is another story. I noticed weird things like I was breathing fine, but didn't seem to be getting oxygen. I even moved my computer next to an open window to try to get fresh air. Ultimately, I started getting pains like an ice pick stabbing me in the lungs, but they'd only last around 1 second and be gone. I kept seeing doctors and being misdiagnosed with pleurisy. Finally I was at one quick care and the doctor said my x-rays looked normal but a pulmonologist just happened to walk by and notice a nodule, so he pointed it out. Ultimately, I got blood tests that showed autoimmune. I had a lung biopsy that confirmed sarcoidosis, another house favorite, and the markers for Sjögren's, too. I had a few years of heavy steroids and am doing much better. I have 72% of my lungs left. There was a lot of scar tissue formed while it was active. My eyes and mouth get dry and I may get tear duct plugs eventually. My joints used to hurt but they have me on something that's helping that, too. I eat a plant-based diet and am very physically active at my job. I'm in constant motion there, so I suppose that helps. No, I don't live in that inner city hellhole anymore. Smile.